The first thing I remember isn't a voice. It's a silence sharp enough to cut, right before my sister dragged her boyfriend toward me across the living room floor. The Christmas lights behind her flickered like they were embarrassed for me. She smiled the way people do when they're about to draw blood without lifting a finger. "This," she announced, hand sweeping toward me like I was a stain she discovered on the carpet, "is the disappointment of the family." My parents laughed. Not shocked, not confused, amused. As if humiliating me had always been one of our holiday traditions that I didn't speak. I rarely did. But he did. He looked at them first, then at me and said calmly, "Funny. She's the only one here who hasn't failed." That was the moment my life cracked open. Even if no one else heard the sound, my name is Marin Vale. And for most of my life I lived like a shadow someone forgot to switch off. I grew up in a house where attention was rationed, and I learned early that my share would always be the scraps. My sister, Elara, was the sun in every room. Center seat at the table, center story in every conversation, center priority in every decision. Her plate was always filled first. Mine was whatever was left when hands got tired of reaching. Soggy vegetables, the chunk of bread nobody wanted, meat that went cold before it ever touched my fork. I learned to move quietly. Quiet feet, quiet hands, quiet hopes. My mother, Celine, had a way of speaking softly that somehow made her words land harder. "Don't be greedy, Marin," she'd whisper every time I asked for anything. And my father, Oren, only looked at me when something needed fixing, something broken, forgotten, or inconvenient. I wasn't a daughter. I was a tool that he used to call it building character. Which was interesting, considering Elara never needed to build any. Hers was pre-installed, apparently. When I was 14, she forgot a major school project at home. Instead of asking her why, my father turned to me, frustration already set in his jaw. "Why didn't you remind your sister?" As if my life's job was to keep hers functioning. Elara didn't even pretend to feel bad. In our house, guilt was assigned, not earned. I thought things might get better when I got older. That maybe effort would count for something. I was wrong that I earned a spot in a competitive art program downtown. A miracle. I almost didn't believe myself. I brought the acceptance letter home, breathless, stupidly hopeful that my mother read it like it was an invoice. "Elara has rehearsals that day. We can't be driving all over the city for this," she added. "Be realistic. Your mother would have wanted that." My biological mother, the one whose absence sat in the corners of our house like an unused chair. The letter was tossed out with the day's trash. Elara's dance costumes arrived 2 days later. Paid for with the savings my mother had left for me. Money that vanished the same year I started wanting a life that wasn't shaped around my sister. But the strangest part? I believed them. Believed it wasn't favoritism. It was support, responsibility, family. Words they weaponized with gentle voices. Still, I had my rebellions. Late-night drawing sessions in the laundry room. Envelopes of saved money tucked behind detergent. Silences thick enough to hold the shape of dreams that belonged only to me. But even then, some part of me kept waiting for them to see me. To finally say my name with pride instead of irritation. It took years to understand I was waiting for something that had never existed. The breaking point didn't come with yelling. It never does. It came quietly, through a half-open office door and my sister's voice drifting out like perfume. "My sister? Oh, she doesn't really have a career. They keep her around because they feel bad for her." Laughter followed, casual, rehearsed. I stood still, one hand on my bag, breathing through the old sting that never dulled, just rearranged itself. The next morning it got worse. My concept file, the one I'd spent weeks refining, was missing from the shared folder. Replaced by a polished version with Elara's initials on the signature line. I stared at the screen until the cursor blurred in and turned slipped in, shoulders tense. "I saw her download your file yesterday," he whispered. "She deleted the original." It wasn't shock I felt. It was recognition. The pattern. The cycle. The script. I opened the access logs. There it was. Her username. Her timestamp. Her deletion. Her upload. Clean. Intentional. Familiar. Later that afternoon, Elara retold her favorite lie. "Marin always buckles under pressure." People laughed politely. Except Adrian, my creative director. He looked at me for half a breath, and I swear he saw something shifting under my stillness. I stayed silent. My silence had muscle memory. It knew exactly what to hold and what to swallow. After the meeting, I walked out of the building and into the cold evening without a coat. The city lights blurred like I was underwater. I walked until my blood felt sharp again. Until the cold reminded me I was still here. I ended up at a 24-hour co-working space, empty except for a forgotten printer humming like a tired heartbeat. I opened my laptop. Access logs don't lie. They don't gaslight. They don't rewrite you. I copied everything. Every deletion. Every unauthorized budget shift. Every email where she painted me as unstable. Then I dug deeper. Payments missing from my accounts. Approval she forced through. My designs feeding the foundation of her career. It wasn't revenge. It was inventory. Near midnight, my aunt texted me a photo of old paperwork she found in storage. Payments my mother had left specifically for me. The ones that vanished years ago. Your mother wanted you to have these, she said. I added them to the folder to U1M. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows watching snow drift under the street lamps, each flake slow and deliberate, like a truth that had waited years to land up EY morning. I had built a folder so complete it felt like a heartbeat. Evidence, not emotion. When I showed up at the office, Adrian was already waiting. Sit, he said, turning his laptop toward me. My file. Your metadata is still hidden inside. He opened the logs next. You pulled everything. I nodded. Are you sure you want me involved? He asked quietly. Yes, I said. For the first time in my life, my voice didn't shake around my own name. We spent 2 hours compiling everything. Clean, undeniable, devastating. When it was finished, he slid the final packet toward me. I'll deliver it, he said. But I wanted to be there. Not to confront her, but to stop witnessing my own erasure like it was a show I didn't buy tickets to. That night, I arrived late to my father's house for Christmas dinner. The same house dressed in lights so warm they felt dishonest. Alara was already holding court, performing her perfection in front of distant relatives. When they finally noticed me, my father gestured to the same chair at the edge of the table I'd sat in since childhood. Sit. We've been waiting. As if my presence was the disruption, not their cruelty. Dinner continued until Alara stood up, placed a hand on Adrian's arm, and announced with theatrical sweetness, and here she is, our family's failure. Laughter. Soft. Cruel. Familiar. Adrian set his fork down. The small metallic clink froze the room. He looked at her, then at me. Actually, he said, you're fired. The room went still. He connected his tablet to the TV. The slide after slide appeared. My concepts, my designs, my signatures buried under her edits. Her access logs. Her unauthorized payments. Her trail of taking and taking and taking. She tried to speak. You don't understand. He didn't look at her. You did this. When the final slide showed the portfolio, the real one, Adrian said. Marin is the co-founder and principal strategist of this agency. She always has been. No applause. No dramatic gasp. Just the sudden collapse of a narrative that had trapped me my entire life. For the first time, the silence around me wasn't heavy. It bowed. Months later, I moved to Seattle. A tiny apartment. Clean walls. Rain that sounded like forgiveness tapping on the window. I worked in an office I built myself, one not shaped like survival. Adrian helped set it up, choosing the desk with me like it mattered. I didn't cut my family off. I simply stopped revolving around their gravity. On Christmas Eve a year later, I cooked dinner with coworkers who had become friends. We delivered meals to a nearby shelter, the kind of giving that feels like exhaling instead of bleeding. When I finally sat at my own table, I served myself the best portion, hot, crisp. Chosen on purpose. No one told me I didn't deserve it. No one measured my worth in comparison to someone else's hunger. It was a small moment. Almost nothing. But it was mine. Unbent. Whole.